Welcome, it's John Park's Workshop, and this is it. We're going to do this thing, all of us, together, right? Hello, people of Discord chat and YouTube. Hey, Matambale. We got Todd Bot in the house making disparaging remarks about music. Not nice, Todd. And hello, C. Grover. Thanks for giving us an update on the sound level. Let me know how the mic level is as well. Hey, WalkWalk90 in YouTube. Yes, this is John Park's Workshop. It's true. Yes, it is. And welcome over on YouTube. And if you're over in the Facebook or Twitch, come on by and chat in Discord if you want. I'm not watching those chats because I've got just the two eyeballs. So let's get started, shall we? We've got all sorts of good stuff going on here today. So how about we kick it off with a little notice, a little mention of AdaBox 14. So AdaBox 14 is shipping soon. Did you know that? That's right. Yeah, it's, look, there I am. Let me pop up the web browser to see, because if you go to adabox.com, you'll see that it is 10 days left to subscribe. That's right, it's 10 days left to subscribe. You have 10 days left to subscribe. It says so right there. Gosh, that's a lot of me back there. There we go. And you can subscribe for yourself and get this edition of the AdaBox 14, or you can give it as a gift. It makes for an excellent gift for someone in your life who you know who might be interested in hopping on that journey train of electronics learning and coding learning and making things learning. The AdaBox is perfect. It comes chock full of stuff, makes an excellent gift, and we always provide a ton of guides to help you get started in learning about electronics and coding and making and the things that are inside of the box. So please, I implore you, go if you haven't and subscribe yourself or someone else to AdaBox 14. I believe we have a small number left. The subscriptions go pretty quick, but we do have some left. It's true. So please go check out AdaBox at adafruit.com/AdaBox and you can subscribe. Let's see, what else? Hey, help wanted. We have a jobs board. It is at jobs.adafruit.com. And if you head there, you can take a look at some of these exciting positions that are open. It is a free jobs board. It's free to post. It's free to post your info. We've got some cool positions up there, including the sensor engineer, part-time or full-time, at the NYU School of Medicine. How about that? That could be interesting. So please, go check out jobs.adafruit.com. It's free. That's right. You don't pay anything at all. Nothing. Never. You never will. All right, let's see. What else have we got happening here? Hey, the coupon code for the day, in case you want to head on over to Adafruit and pick up some stuff, is Get to the Reindeer! That's right, Get to the Reindeer. just as Arnold may have said, I wasn't paying attention. It might have been a chopper, but it might have been a reindeer or a sleigh. That might make more sense in a little bit why I'm doing that horrible Arnold impression. But get to the reindeer. We'll get you 10% off in the store. And that's good on all the real physical stuff, not gift certificates, subscriptions, or software. But if you put that code in your cart on the way out, you're going to get 10% off. And speaking of, sorry, Matambale, that was probably a little loud, yeah. Speaking of stuff you might want to put in your cart, how about the product of the week? So it's not the chopper. That's right, Andy Calloway. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So products that you may, be interested in checking out include my product pick of the week, which is this Raspberry Pi keyboard, and I call it the keyboard/hub. I've actually got one right over there. We're going to take a look at it, or I'm going to be using it in a second. But cool thing about this keyboard is it's a nice little compact keyboard. You can see me holding it right here. Has a nice feel, and it has a little USB hub built into the back. So it's got a micro USB cable for plugging it into your computer. That could be a Raspberry Pi or anything else you want. But then it has 3 USB-A type ports so that you can plug in peripherals, which is really nice when you're, in particular, using a Raspberry Pi and you've got a limited number of ports, particularly if you're using something like a Pi Zero, for example. That one USB port, you could go to this keyboard, and then this keyboard can be your hub to other things. So I think it's a pretty cool keyboard. It's also cool looking. It's got this gray coloring here and this slatey blue plastic underneath and on the back. So that's my pick of the week right there. Mr. Certainly asks, is that a rotary lineman's handset behind you? Yes, it is. And in fact, that's an excellent segue because that brings us to our MakeCode Minute. All right, so for our MakeCode Minute today, what I wanted to do is show you, continuing in on our journey of old telephone technology, I'm going to show you how you can decode the pulses from a rotary dial telephone using a Circuit Playground Express inside of MakeCode. And I'll show you first how this works in MakeCode, and then we'll do a real demo. So here's my code. I will zoom in on this a little bit. You can see what I'm doing when I start up that matters here is I'm setting one of the pins to be a pull-up, to use an internal pull-up resistor. And that's how we're going to detect pulses on the dial. So essentially a rotary dial telephone, when you turn the dial, it then is a momentary switch inside that's going to be flicking a circuit or connection on and off. So the next thing we do is we set a little timestamp, and this is called previous timestamp, and it's set to millis. Millis is something you can get from this control category, and it allows you to get the current time when something happened in elapsed milliseconds. We're also setting a variable called new number to true. So that means the first time we dial, we're essentially, the logic is going to think this is a new number we're dialing. Then this loop here, what it does, it counts pulses and it updates neopixels. How this works, if the pin on A5 is red, so it's gone low to ground, then we're going to set a different variable as a timestamp, so we'll be able to compare it to that first one. This is called dial start timestamp. And then we have this little if-else statement, and what it does is, like the comment says, if the pulse that it receives is within 90 milliseconds of the start timestamp, then this is the dial turning, not a person starting a new number. Then when I receive a pulse, I set a neopixel to red, and then we increment a counter so that every time it pulses during this journey, it's going to light up a neopixel red. If that timestamp is broad enough, then this is a new number that was starting. Now, the way that we're using this is actually also as an HID keyboard, so it'll enter, it's not only decoding the pulses, but it's entering them into a computer. I have a Raspberry Pi set up over there. So when a timestamp says this is not a new digit inside of the dial, but we've completed going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the pause there is big enough that it says, oh, that must be we're done counting those little clicks, that's a 7. So then it types a 7 into the HID keyboard. In the case that I use a 0, that's actually going to count 10 pulses, but I'm sending a 0 instead of a 10. So let's see it in action. I'm going to pop over to this down shooter here, and let me hide my view. So what you'll see is I have a rotary dial telephone, I have Circuit Playground Express in our little case here, and I've got, you can see a little window open with numbers. So if I dial, let's say a 4, it just counted 4 pulses, and then the pause was long enough that it decided it was done counting pulses, and it typed in a 4 there. So we can do an 8, we can do a 1, we can do another 1, we can go all the way up to the 0, and we get the 0 rather than 10, and so on. So this is able to count that timing precisely enough to decode the rotary dial telephone. And that is how you can decode a rotary dial telephone using Circuit Playground Express and use it as an HID keyboard input device for, let's say, entering in numeric passwords or as part of a puzzle or an escape room type of thing, or maybe you open your secret vault with it. I don't know how you're going to use it, but that's how you do it right inside of MakeCode. And that is your MakeCode Minute. All right, so that has exhausted my current supply of interesting telephone techniques that we can do in the MakeCode Minute with a Circuit Playground Express. But if you think of something else, or it could be other communication stuff, let me know. Let me know in the Discord chat or in the YouTube chat, and we'll consider some other interesting retro tech that we can use inside of MakeCode and our Circuit Playground Express. So, by the way, one thing that just occurs to me, in the old days there were dual-tone multifunction dialers set up to help you when you had a rotary phone but you didn't have a DTMF phone yet, and we could do that with this. Combining last week's project and this one, we could decode pulses and then send out the DTMF tones, which would be kind of cool. All right, well, that now is going to take us into our MakeCode Arcade Game of the Week. So our MakeCode Arcade Game Pick of the Week is, let me move some stuff around. It is Hungry Square. Let me zoom this up for you. So Hungry Square is by WeCode MakeCode, and they have an excellent website where they explain the projects that they're working on. It's I believe, a grandmother-granddaughter coding team. And here is their site, WeCode MakeCode, and this is a nice explanation of how the game works. Let me show you the game itself. So I'm gonna expand this to full, and let's see if I can restart. So this is a chomping game, and you can see what's going on here. The thing that I think is interesting is you've got essentially 3 streams of randomized food that are coming into the screen, and there's a running percentage of the number of pieces of food that have been spewed into the scene. What percentage have you collected? So here you can see I'm up to 78, 79, 80%. And if I let some go by, if I stay in my lane here and miss them, you can see that that percentage is going to start to go down, 72, 71. So I thought this was a really interesting example of some coding techniques that we could take a look at. And the main one is this notion of, instead of counting points, is counting percentage of food that's come onto the screen that has been eaten. And the reason, as the WeCode MakeCode people explain for doing this, is that there's a randomization going on the timing of the release of the food. So the game lasts for 1 minute. It's how many can you get in the minute. And so for this to be fair from player to player to player trying to get their high score, since there's randomization to the number of projectiles or food that come onto the screen, you can't just count the straight number. You can't say, oh, I got 500 and I win, because someone might have played a game where only 470 came out. So instead, the use of the percentage is really terrific. And where you'll see this inside the code, let me make sure you can see that there, yeah, is this right here. So there's this set score, this variable being set to a rounding of 100 multiplied by n foods eaten, which is tallied every time you eat a piece of food, right here with this overlap sprite block here, divided by the number of foods launched. So every time that particle comes on, or that projectile comes onto the screen of a piece of food, that is incremented as well. So we keep a running tally of the percentage eaten. So I thought that was really cool. It's a very interesting programming exercise to look at, and it's also kind of fun. And you can challenge your friends to see who can get the high score. And I also like the cute character design. So really nice job, and that is why This is our MakeCode arcade game pick of the week, Hungry Square. Amazing the amount of differing kinds of projects and games that people are making inside of MakeCode Arcade. I really dig it. All right. Let's see. Oh, that's funny. I was just looking in the chat over here, in the Discord chat. Toddbot mentions that you can get a lineman's handset on Monoprice. So yeah, typically if you want a lineman's handset, I can't remember if I've shown this off before on here, but this is what was called a butt set or a lineman's handset. So telephone repairs people would carry these out into the field, and they have alligator clips on the end. That's what I've got plugged into the Circuit Playground Express here. Let me pop that off of there for a second and show you. So there's these two alligator clips here, and I've got them clipped onto ground and the A5 pad that I was reading. So this can be used to listen in on phone calls, to test a line, essentially, and it's got that rotary dial on there, as well as listen and press to talk here. But apparently you can still get these handsets on Monoprice, also called a Butinsky. And I'm wondering if any of them also still have a rotary dial. I'm guessing not. They're probably all DTMF. So that's the phone freak moment of the week, I guess. All right, so moving on, let's see. There were, I think there was just a couple things I wanted to mention before we get into the project of the week. And one of those is that I was at the Hackaday Super Conference over last Friday and over the weekend, which was a lot of fun, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of talk about things at the conference. One thing that goes on is there's these little add-ons, SAO add-ons, that are made to plug into the conference badge. It's sort of a standard. And I got this really cool add-on from Dave Darko, who's a hardware hacker who was visiting us from Germany. Thank you for this, first of all. It's a little Mr. Robot. And this has a little PCB layout for doing, I think it's an AT85 microcontroller to do a little sound circuit. A thing about this is done entirely with the OshPark After Dark board type. So if you're familiar with doing PCBs on OshPark, they've traditionally been purple. They're known for that, but now they have this black fiberglass board substrate and clear solder mask, so that you can essentially make your silk screen, which is the white, and your copper, which is the copper there, show up under the clear solder mask there. So you can do some pretty sophisticated and cool looking art with that. Also, something that I was excited about is let me see, I don't know if, yeah, I've got one here. So a lot of you might be familiar with the, in fact, I'm going to switch over to this camera for this so you can see this from a down shooter perspective. So a lot of you, excuse me, Santa, might be familiar with the Maker Notebook. Straighten this camera a little bit. So these Maker Notebooks were designed by Gareth Branwyn and some of the other editors and team at Make Magazine many years ago, and they're excellent lab notebooks for putting in projects as you're working on them. In fact, there was some Lucio Blaster circuit diagrams and overlays of mine from a few years ago. And these have these great pinouts and charts and circuits and things listed in the back. And recently, just a couple days ago, I got this in the mail, which is reminds me of it. And this is from Tom Whitwell of Music Thing Modular. And it is a similar idea. It's a lab notebook, but it's actually expressly designed for people who are designing modular synthesizers in specific Eurorack. But a couple of cool things is the dot pitch. That's going to be a little bright there. But the dot pitch of this is 2.54 millimeter, which is the same as your legs on most of your common circuits or components, so you can lay things on and draw them out on there. And it's also got a whole section of faceplates that are different sizes of Eurorack faceplates. Sorry, that's really blown out there. Let me turn off one light real quick. Maybe that'll help. Oh, that's not responding. There we go. A little darker there, yeah. And so these are different faceplate sizes. And I know this is really specific sort of inside baseball for people who are doing Eurorack modular, but I thought it was a neat idea for other types of electronics and making hobbies, I could totally see someone doing an updated version of this Maker's Notebook, or maybe something a little more specific to a hobby. So thanks to Tom for that, and I think those are going to be available at Fonk, which is a synth site, pretty soon, if not today. So that is my little show and tell of nifty stuff for the week. And now let's get into our project build of the week. Let's see. We'll throw that up. Project build. And let me come over to this camera for a second. And I will show you up close my project build of the week. Where I put it? And let me grab that off of here. I was just stretching the paracord on it. And hold on, I'm going to do a big reveal. Not that probably most of you don't already know what's coming, but for the sake of drama, let's pop that on. There we go. That is ho, ho, ho! Get to the India! Again, right? There's a coupon code. So that is our project of the week, which is an updated version of our Terminator Eye. And we decided to do a Cyberpunk Santa Claus. And this is using, instead of Teensy or some of the other ways we've done these Halloween, this is actually using our Circuit Playground Bluefruit and the Gizmo TFT. And so I've built this into a EVA foam holder. And the inspiration for this is that Mad-Eye Moody character from the Harry Potter series. If you've seen, read the books or seen the movies, there's a kind of wandering eye. And the challenge with these is mostly in the mounting. How do you wear a thing like that? You don't want it poking you in the eye. And yeah, Mr. Certainly says, I love that eye design. All credit to Phil B., our own Paint Your Dragon, for designing the code and the graphic for this sort of Terminator eye. And so let me jump over to the workbench and show you kind of the evolution of the design a little bit, and how you can make your own. So I'll zoom in a bit, like so. So what I'm starting with is we actually sell these EVA foam multicolor packs now in the Adafruit store. So starting with just a red sheet of that, I made a little template, and the truth is, the way I did it is I kind of freeform designed one first. This is the one I did first using some scrap leather that I had left over. This one's got a charging circuit plugged into it. So I took this piece of leather here and essentially wrapped some waxed thread around the interface between the two parts. Let me try to get enough light on that so you can see it. So you can kind of see that, yeah. So there is the posts that the Gizmo has right there. That's what's inside there. So I essentially trapped it by wrapping twine and tying it tightly, and then decided to attach some leather grommets to this and use a little post to sort of tie this onto the back, because I didn't want to have this in my face. So that there has not yet been secured, but that gave me kind of a, let me switch cameras here for you. That gave me kind of this cyberpunk feel like this, and I used a little elastic strapping to hold that in place. So that gives us kind of a piratey looking setup, but I wanted to do something that was a little more reproducible than the leather, but I did like this idea of wrapping the intersection between the two parts in some string. So I reproduced that in foam, and then I sketched out something and created it in, sorry, this camera is tilted. I reproduced this in a CAD drawing so that I could print out a guide. And so I'm going to put a template guide in the Learn guide that you can print this out. It'll just fit on a single sheet of foam, basically 8.5 by 11 sheet of foam. And if you carefully cut out this top layer and this bottom layer, what you'll end up with is a circle that covers the corners of the screen, so you just get a circular portion of the screen visible there on that side. And on this back side, we get a little flap that allows you to still get to the buttons if you need to, but also got holes laid out so that you can drill, or rather kind of poke through the foam and then screw through that into the connection between the two parts. So when you're connecting, I'll zoom back in here for you. When you're connecting the Gizmo to the Circuit Playground Express, what matters is the contact between these two surfaces here. So it's okay that I actually have something in the way here, the foam in the way with the screws, because as long as these are all pressed to each other, we still get enough of a contact for that to work, and that's how it's working in all of these cases here. So you can see there's my foam on the back, screwed through. There's a little flap there so I can still get to the controls, but this is where your eye is, so you really don't want to get poked with a button in the eye, so that's why I left that little flap there. We can unplug it and plug it in with this right here, and this is how we're going to charge the battery. So I was using one of these little USB battery charging circuits, so you can just plug that into the LiPo battery and then plug it into the side of a laptop, or I've got a big backup battery there, so plug that in and that's going to charge. And then you can just kind of carefully grip and wiggle that. You don't want to pull on the wire, so you do have to be a little careful. And there it goes. Now, one thing I did here is that with the foam, sort of like the leather, part of the reason this works is that we're able to stretch the material. So this is actually, as you can see, larger than this piece here that's underneath, because this gets folded and bent down and formed across the surface a little bit there. And there's a couple of puckers in there that will happen naturally, but by pressing this down, we can get to where those are roughly equal. And then I'm just using a little bit of super glue. That works best for this EVA foam. I wouldn't try hot glue. That'll generally melt things and be a mess, but the super glue works well. You can, as long as you don't leak it outside, you can use a couple of paper clips to clamp that while it dries. It does not stick that well, so it's not going to hold itself. So you want to do maybe a couple of dots here and there, and then I did a couple of them higher up here and here. And that just helps it all stay together. And then ultimately, this wrap that I'm using here is what's keeping the foam pressed down into this shape, as well as giving you something to tie it around your head. So this is just going through the foam to hide the string a little bit and attach it to these flaps here. You could do away with that. Your design can vary. And then you could just tie this paracord in the back. You could add some elastic to it if you wanted to. Let's see if I have some of this stuff. It's like simple sewing notions type of elastic would work well, just maybe as a little band back there so that it just stretches and sticks to your head. I got a couple of these clasps. You can get them where you buy your paracord, which I got at the hardware store. They call these bracelet buckles for people who are doing paracord bracelets. And you could do something nicer with the ends here. I've just woven it through in a way that I can tighten it a little bit, and then this could probably use a couple of figure 4 knots or something, or figure 8s to get that out of the way like that, and then maybe glue it down. I also, since I didn't want to knot this here, I did dab this with a couple of dots of super glue at each of those little twists. So you can see I twisted that around a few times there. And then that's how I had it drying. I just clamped that. It was being pulled between two objects and a vise, bench vise, so that would dry nicely. And so that is the basics of putting together the eye. You can use different eye patterns on there. We have this Terminator eye, and there's actually an updated guide. Let me show you. Phil B just updated as Phil B is wont to do for the remainder of his days, he will be updating eyeball guides. So if we look over here, this is the TFT Gizmo animated eye guide, and so it's a collection of ready-to-run UF2 files for Circular Playground Bluefruit and the Express and the TFT Gizmo as the display. And so you can see these are just files that you can download that will allow you to drag and drop. So you'll essentially plug the board in, double-click the reset button so it goes into bootloader mode, and then you just drag the UF2 file on. And then you can also choose to look at some of the other more advanced guys for customization tips. If you want to try compiling your own code and using Arduino, then you could make other eyes, but that's a bit more involved. And so for this nice, easy, quick start, we have this collection of different eyes that will, just download and play on your board. And then without making any promises we can't necessarily keep, there's a chance that we'll be also adding some NeoPixel support to this particular one, because I thought it would be cool with my Cyber Santa outfit here. Let's throw this back on. So I've got my little clasps here. Click that into place. I've got my Santa. There we go. And so what I want to do is get some NeoPixels in the beard here, maybe. So it would be nice to use one of the JST plugs on the side of the Gizmo. If you look on the back of the Gizmo, it actually has these two ports that you can use, and you can plug in a NeoPixel strip into one of those. It'll give you power, ground, and data line. So we may be able to get that working. If we get that working, then I might try to backlight the beard with some cyberpixelsness. Oh, and of course, Toddbot already just plussed it a bit and said we should make the pom-pom light up. Oh, I'm looking in the camera and can't find the pom-pom. Sure, what else? All right, light up pom-pom. Maybe that would be cool, too. I shake my fist at you. Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it. And, oh, there's a nice one. Bornox says, we can fake the president's eye, fool an iris scanner, and use this to steal a nuclear weapon, just like in half of all James Bond movies and episodes of Mission Impossible. I like that. No one will be suspicious either if you walk into the Pentagon as very obvious Santa Claus. People will usually get out of your way. All right. Well, I got to tell you, it's been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Oh yeah, Yanni Turinen mentions with the lens, that would be cool too. So we have our 40mm lens that we could pop in there that would give it a nice look. I like that idea. So that might be a fun upgrade, and it won't be that hard to do with the EVA foam. You could maybe expand that circle a little before cutting it, or I'm going to guess you won't even need to. And if you just push the lens into the back there, you'll be able to get one of those, either the acrylic or the glass lenses in there. All right, so I know it's a little early for Christmas, but I wanted to get this done so that you could build one in time for Christmas, give you a little chance to get it ready. So I can't just publish this right at Christmas, or you maybe want to attend your Thanksgiving festivities as Santa Claus. Yeah, FS Music says, I will try this with the Halloween. Yeah, this should work with any Halloween M0 or M4. Also good for making Santa Claus cyber masks. And I guess since I said Santa Claus, I have to say, get to the reindeer! Because that'll get you 10% off in the store today. And that's all I got for you. So thank you once again for Adafruit Industries. I'm John Park, and this has been Santa Claus's Workshop. I will see you next time.